I had a client, he walked into his house and he found the handyman defiling his wife on the kitchen table. I hate to be so graphic. What did the wife do? Immediately went to contact law enforcement, filed for a restraining order. Now he's basically facing having to sell his home to give half of it to his wife that was cheating on him, plus pay her alimony. That's just utterly insane.
This whole concept of one day the kids will be with me is the biggest destruction and the biggest lie that was sold. And the sad part is we've adopted this Western phenomenon in the Muslim house.
Women are factually more emotional as a general rule because they need that emotion to give birth, to raise the child, to breastfeed, to do all of this. A wife can get emotional and upset. Okay, I want a divorce. Allah did not give them the ability to apply divorce just like that.
What's your advice for Muslim men today? The young generation that's coming up, the 20-year-old, the mid-20s that are looking for spouses. What did they do? Where did they find these spouses? And how did they structure their life?
So one of the first things that people have to decide.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to another episode of the Punches and Prayers podcast. Today I have a very special guest that I've been chasing to get on. He's a person with a lot of influence in the Muslim community. He's traveled the world with, famous influencers. Some of you already know him. He's been with Dan Bilzerian, Mike Tyson, Haney, a bunch of other celebrities. The list goes on, and he holds himself in a very, very professional and an Islamic manner. He professionalizes in law in America, and he advocates for Muslim fathers who are dealing with the challenges of modern divorce and modern marriages. And I'm very blessed to have him on our channel today. Without further ado, Hassan Shibly, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, jazakallah khair. It's great to be here, and thank you for the generous intro. And I would actually add that even not just the fathers, but I really advocate for the children. That's really what it's about. It's about the children. And in doing that, I advocate even strongly for mothers to ensure that justice consistent with our Islamic principles is being met. In fact, people will be surprised because there is a perception out there that, oh, he just stands up for men. I'm Muslim. I stand for justice. And as part of that, a lot of my clients are even women, but I always advise the men and the women that you have to find success only through the Quran and the Sunnah of what they advised us is the path to success. And you can't truly be successful, especially if it's in a divorce situation, if you try to destroy the father of your children. If my client is a woman, or if my client is the father, you're not going to be successful if you destroy the mother of your children, because children need a happy mother and a happy father for them to be happy. And what got me into family law was just seeing how many of these lawyers don't really care at all about the long-term success, especially of the kids. They fan the fumes of the fire because they profit. They're billing you per hour. So the more the parents fight, the more money they make, and they don't fear Allah. They don't care about the children, and in the end, everyone ends up being worse off.
Unfortunately, yeah. Like even I was dealing with that too. These lawyers literally don't care, and they're not even that professional nowadays. They're all using ChatGPT to respond to emails. They're not even doing it themselves, right? But there are still good people out there, and I genuinely believe that. However, like you said earlier, we're always going to get labeled that, especially running a men's group and advocating for fathers' rights. Like even when I started this, so we had a couple of sheikhs on here where we started talking about females' right, and guess what the modern feminist woman would say? Who are men to talk about our rights again? So,
well, let's be clear. Modern feminism is one of the most destructive forces to faith, to society, to women, to children. Alhamdulillah, our deen is perfect as it is. And these new movements, and you have to look at, because the people behind these movements, they're also the ones that are behind pornography. They're also the ones behind Zionism. They're behind genocide. They're behind just about all of the evils in the world. And it's a shame when people within our community drink the Kool-Aid without understanding who made the Kool-Aid and why they made it and what the results are of that Kool-Aid. It's disgusting.
But it's pretty evident now. Like, I went through the process here. I had fake allegations and breaches on me, which I beat in court, the breaches. And the system itself is just tiring for a man, because at the end you just plead to something because they want to get you on something at the end of the day. Little did I know later on in life that they had nothing on me and I still pled to something, such and such. And at the end of it, alhamdulillah, like we got the best possible outcome in a situation where a female judge and all that, and she still saw clear through it. And alhamdulillah, it's good. But for me, it's not about me. The things I went through, I genuinely care about the next generation. And we are going down a path, I believe, that men are going to scared to have kids. Men are going to be scared to have kids and families. And just like the white nations and the white population is on a decline, we are soon to face that too.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, so here's the thing. What we're creating with the cultural environment, with the legal environment, is literally men have no incentive now to get married, to have families. And it's ultimately women, children, and the ummah that will pay the price. Again, it's really disastrous when you undermine the infrastructure of marriage. But if a man is concerned that, oh, if I get legally married, then one day, I mean, I had a client. He was literally sitting in my office right behind where I'm doing this, and in tears. He walked into his house and he found the handyman defiling his wife on the kitchen table. I hate to be so graphic, but that he literally caught them in the act of fornication on the kitchen table. What did the wife do? Immediately went to contact law enforcement, filed for a restraining order. And she basically acknowledged, hey, I got caught cheating and my husband may kill me because I was cheating. So she got a restraining order, which we fought, and we actually got thrown out, alhamdulillah. But now he's basically facing having to sell his home to give half of it to his wife that was cheating on him, plus pay her alimony. And that's just utterly insane. And so you look at this man, do you think he's ever going to get legally married again? And why would he? And what people are not understanding is ultimately in a traditional environment, the male is the protector, is the provider. But if they're going to be dishonored and disrespected, why would they take on that burden and responsibility? And God forbid, people are going to be pushed towards zina, towards fornication, towards all sort of problems. And the only solution is what is found in the Quran and Sunnah.
Mm-hmm. Well, even to go further, I'm very clear about this. I genuinely don't believe that any Muslim man or man period was made for one man, one wife, and protecting his house and this. So my slogan is this: one man, one wife, one mortgage, one car, one house. And this whole concept of one day the kids will be with me is the biggest destruction and the biggest lie that was sold. And sad part is we've adopted this Western phenomenon in the Muslim house. And I'll elaborate a little bit more. So when I was young, right, when I was like 17, 18, I'm at my peak physical shape. This is like 18 years ago. I'm 35, 36 now. And I used to ask the uncles of that time. They weren't uncles. They were the guys that were my age, mid-30s, successful businessmen, did all the right things in Canada, whatever, in US, got the house, the mortgage, the car, the van, the wife, the kids. And I'll be like, yo, how are you guys satisfied with this like daily mundane of like life, and you barely can tolerate how she talks to you, but yet you're scared to be a man even in your own house, and you're not gonna even marry a second woman or this, that, or the other, which is not natural, which I don't think, because I'm 18, I don't feel like this is possible. And you know what their answers was in secret? All these guys, these are all religious guys, by the way, that I'm talking about, big beards, successful in their craft, lawyers, doctors, business people. They're like, listen, it's not natural, but we've sold our manhood, because at the end of the day, in this country, one day our kids will be with us. Those guys right now today are in their 50s, and I'm 35, and they're still with that wife that they can't tolerate, and they've settled with her. They've paid out all their houses. Their kids have grown up, and guess what? The kids, some of them aren't even in the fold of Islam and left them. And now they're depressed because they're like, I never even got to be myself. And I was in a sexless marriage for the past 15, 20 years.
That is a huge problem we're seeing, brother. It's a lot of wives without cause are denying their husband's intimacy. And then when their husband talks about taking on another wife to have his basic human needs, and let's be clear, in the Islamic context, sexual intimacy and intercourse is a form of worship. It is blessed. It is not anything that is impure or dirty. It is something that is celebrated within the halal context. And frankly, it's actually technically the only obligation, the primary obligation a wife has towards her husband, as the obligation of the husband is to ensure that he risks his life to protect her if he needs to, and to provide for her. So I'm seeing so many of these cases where a wife is denying the husband intimacy. And then what do you expect the husband to do in that circumstance? And then she loses her mind if he were even in a halal way to take another wife. And it's just not being practical for human nature and human need.
You are going through divorce. You are going through depression. I understand you. I've been there. This is why I've put together a book that guides you through every single thing you need to know from my experiences and other men's experiences living in the West for the past 2 years. This book will absolutely help you through every single process, whether it's courts, custody, dealing with fake charges. It's absolutely free, guys. I've put this together for you. You don't have to wait anymore. No one's coming to save you, so take action.
So when I saw that, right, like, and those guys, by the way, are the biggest supporters of my movement. And they're like, listen, we love what you're doing. We don't want the young generation to make that mistake that we, babas and uncles did. And these guys are depressed, bro. Depressed. And this is why it shows that, you could have all the material wealth and they're depressed because their needs weren't met. And now they're like, I still have these needs like 55, 56. I'm still good. Like, I can do it. And I haven't had it. And now when I bring up this topic, guess what she says? I'll ruin your life. I will take all your businesses. You'll go back to working again. So the guy retired at like 50, 55. And now he's scared that, okay, so to meet my need, I'm going to have to go work again. But my answer to that is, okay, go still do that. Be a man, right? Who gives a shit, right? That's my thing.
And then they wonder why, men end up in situations where they're taking another wife, but keeping it on the down low. Now, look, in the Islamic requirements, you just need 2 witnesses, offer an acceptance and a dowry. However, the reality is that when you are in a situation where a wife is unjustly depriving her husband of intimacy and threatening that if he takes another spouse, that she will destroy him financially, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? He's either going to commit fornication, he's going to fall into haram, or maybe if he's God-fearing, take another spouse, but he's going to do it on the down low because he's afraid that if he does it publicly and openly, she's going to take half his wealth. So it's oppression on either end. It's either you can be with me, but I'm not going to give you intimacy. And that's it. Or if you try to get intimacy elsewhere, I'll destroy you financially. It's not how God made us. It is satanic and it's destructive.
But this is happening in, I speak to like, I would say 9 out of 10 men that are even married that come to me. They're all in sexless marriages. Like guys that have done 8, 9 years in marriage, like all my age group, like 35, 36-year-olds. And these are guys that I thought had amazing marriages that post their wives online on Instagram every other day. Oh, I'm cooked. And they're like, brother, this is just a show. I'm like, so why are you doing it? Like, why are you living such a fake life? But I'll go a step further. Personally, I genuinely believe that in the times that we are in, and for the Muslim men that are going through this, I would still say, the hell with it, burn it, because I can tell you the man that you're going to become by even going through all this, even all the turmoil, going to jail, ending up, if you really want to become the righteous man, it will bring you closer to Allah and only bring you closer to the haqq, and it'll only show you female nature, that why Allah let us have multiple wives too, and why Allah even let the Muslim man marry the Christian wife, not the other way around, because women are like sheep, they're followers. They don't have any of their own because a Muslim woman, when she marries a Christian man, the chances of her following Christianity is very likely. Whereas a Muslim man can have 2 or 3 Christian wives as long as they're in the right Christians, and he will never sell his deen. And I've seen this over and over. Even I've seen Muslim women today, as soon as they divorce the husband, the hijab comes off, this comes off. You see, like this, their deen is for sale. Whereas the guy can be the biggest, whatever badass, he will never publicly go and say, my deen is for sale.
I mean, it's a common trend nowadays after divorce. I mean, there's even a meme going out about it, right? Where the brother goes through the divorce and then he comes out with his deen 10 times stronger. Yeah. And the sister goes through the divorce and she, drops everything from the deen. Unfortunately, that's a common problem. And look, on the issue of polygamy, let's be real right now. How many sisters right now are struggling? Many of them with children and unable to find a partner and a spouse. And a lot of them, unfortunately, again, end up falling into zina. And this idea that society would rather normalize and accept zina, pornography, and other societal ills instead of allowing a man to take care of and provide for more than one spouse is insane. Let's be clear. In the Islamic tradition and historically, what is marriage? In marriage, the wife is belonging to the man. She's giving herself to the man in return for the man.
In all of the religions.
In all the religions, the wife is giving herself to the man, and the man is taking the oath to protect her, to provide for her, to support her. And a man, if Allah's blessed him, is able to do that for more than one person. It's not that the husband belongs to the wife. That's not how it works. And the husband, at the end of the day, is 100% responsible for the financial economic, and physical well-being and safety for the wife. But again, you're living in a society that has family law and divorce law written by people who can't even define what a male and a female is. I mean, they believe there's more than two genders. It's insane. And so if they can't even define what a male and a female is, how do you expect them to define what a husband and a wife is and what their rights and responsibilities are? So quite candidly speaking, I think legal marriage is often a terrible idea. Because what you're doing is you're involving the secular state that funds and supports genocide to have a role in your house. But so I think avoiding, and by the way, I have a lot of female clients that are super wealthy that they don't want to get legally married because they're like, listen, I'm very wealthy. Why would I want to get legally married? And then God forbid my husband can demand alimony from me. Doesn't make sense. So I would say avoiding legal marriage is critical. But if someone must get legally married, they should do an Islamic prenup to ensure that the rights given to them by Allah are preserved. And the right Islamic prenup can actually better preserve the marriage itself completely.
So I genuinely think, I don't know, you're more well-versed in this. I don't even think like the signing this legal document is even halal. Like what you're signing in this world, when you're giving your rights to the state here, with the way they divide assets and they divide everything, and the way they govern your life and your right to your kids, is this even a halal document?
Great question. That's a great question. And look, when determining if something is halal, haram, sunnah, makruh, the different classifications, let's be clear, that is something that isn't even for the average scholar. You really need to be at a level of a mujtahid or some of the top level scholarship to individually determine something. Even the average scholar, what they will do when classifying something is they'll just lean on another scholar who will do that. And I believe in that. But my position is this: I truly believe if the community and the scholars fully were aware of what it means to be legally married, I believe that they would classify it as impermissible to do so without an Islamic prenup. But unfortunately, I don't think the community's there. I don't think they fully understand what's happening. But I think if the community did, it would at the very least be impermissible to get legally married without an Islamic prenup, because what you're doing is destroying the rights Allah gave you for no reason and committing to abide by laws written by people that don't know what they're doing, that are completely un-Islamic, when those laws give you the option to get an Islamic prenup and you choose not to. So I think if people had all the knowledge they needed to have, it would at the very least be impermissible to get legally married without an Islamic prenup.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I only believe in getting the nikah done, like without any of this. And I believe there should be some kind of a contract that's drafted by professionals, because the other thing we see is, men that go through divorce, Muslims, first thing, the moment the wife initiates divorce, she empties the entire bank account. There's guys literally living in their cars. There's brothers living in their cars in the masjid parking lot to try to just get a shower in the masjid in and out. There's actually in a lot of the local masajids, in the parking lots, there's uncles sleeping in their cars with domestic charges, haven't seen their kids. Now they're on the street with a criminal record. They're not business owners, so now they can't even get a job. And they're literally parked in their cars, living, showering in the masjid, to try to even this is Muslims. Forget about the Kafirs. This is Muslim chronicles out here. And I know millionaires where I sat in family court for 2 years every Thursday just to see what kind of decisions are made. I've seen multi-millionaires, Canadians, that had shared bank accounts, and the wife emptied the entire bank account, and the guy can't even retain a lawyer.
Yeah, it's wild. And not only that, but then people are pushed to suicide. Yeah. People are pushed to terrible things like violence and murder and domestic violence. That's not to justify it, but when you have unjust laws that go against human nature, you're going to increase the conflict. And the issue is, look, in the Islamic tradition, because the husband is responsible and Allah will question him about the safety and the well-being of his spouse, the husband has the authority to lead the marriage. But how can you lead when, if your wife doesn't like anything that you say, bam, take you to court, file false charges, take half your money and a third of your income in alimony? You have no authority to lead. It's going to heavily rely on the wife's taqwa and God consciousness. But what you've done, if you don't have an Islamic prenup and you're legally married, is essentially you've done a big fitna that can tempt the person to make the wrong decisions. And I've seen way too many people sell out their deen for a paltry sum of this dunya.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And when I was married, and thank God, I never had no joint bank accounts, nothing. I never owned a house. I still rent. Even this is rental. I knew this before, even though I didn't have no prenup. I wish I did. That's where I screwed up. But I never bought a house. I was smart about that. I rented. I never had no joint bank accounts. If she used to ever ask me like, hey, are we good? I'm like, yeah, are the bills paid? That's all you need to know. You have a roof over your head, the AC is working, the heater is working, you got nice tiled floors, everything's good, right? A lot of guys, they fall for this thing of, even when I see like Muslim men go down on their knees and like, babe, will you marry me? And all this like kuffar stuff, like, where is your manhood, bro? Like, my thing is like, who's selling our ummah and our men to even do this? Like, where's your manhood? Is
You are going through divorce. You are going through depression. I understand you. I've been there. This is why I've put together a book that guides you through every single thing you need to know from my experiences and other men's experiences living in the West for the past 2 years. This book will absolutely help you through every single process, whether it's courts, custody, dealing with fake charges. It's absolutely free, guys. I've put this together for you. You don't have to wait anymore. No one's coming to save you, so take action.
It's them growing up and watching Disney and watching Hollywood and watching trash TV and not being grounded in traditional Islamic institutions and traditional Islamic leadership. But ideally, look, a man must be truly a man. You don't chase, you don't beg, you show love and compassion and mercy, you retain authority. And that's what it's about. Look, a Muslim husband, inshallah, would be amongst the best of husbands, but according to the Islamic tradition, right? I mean, you know, if you have a wife and she wants to, you know, walk out immodestly, an Islamic husband, a Muslim husband, has the right to say no. You know, it's inappropriate for you to leave the house dressed in a way that's just showing off what Allah has given you and trying to mislead others. In Islam, the husband has the authority to do that. But imagine if he tries to do that and he's legally married without a prenup, what would the reaction be? And it just becomes an environment where everyone is worse off. There is no better path than the Quran and Sunnah. And the Quran and Sunnah is designed to make the husband, the wife, the children, everyone better off and happier. And it also recognizes that, look, from an act of mercy of Allah, women are factually more emotional as a general rule, because they need that emotion to give birth, to raise the child, to breastfeed, to do all of this. But it can also be misapplied. I mean, a wife can get emotional and upset. Okay, I want a divorce. Allah did not give them the ability to apply divorce just like that. But the husband is thinking, okay, maybe I'm not happy right now, but if there's a divorce, these are the long-term implications of how it's going to affect the kids, how it's going to affect my wife. So this is what I want to do to avoid divorce. I'm not just going to react emotionally and give the divorce. Again, they're entrusted with the responsibility. And when you try to give people authority and rights that God didn't give it to them, it's only going to lead to destruction. And that's what legal marriage is, especially without an Islamic prenup. It's giving people, taking away rights Allah has given them and giving them rights Allah didn't give them. And that's only a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you said something very important. Like, you know, these men are leading into zina, and it's crazy because good men, I know like bearded guys that are going down that path. I know bearded guys, like good Islamic guys, because, you know, they're like, I can't do it. Because for some reason, I just feel like manhood was for sale. Like, I'll give you an example. When I wanted to get my nikah done, you know, and I'm not legally divorced yet. Like, I'm still in the process. So I got a nikah done recently with another woman. And, you know, I found a woman and I liked her. And I said, look, the only way we do it is we do nikah, and that's it. And I had to call 35 sheikhs. The 36th one accepted, saying, yeah, well, technically I can't do this because, you know, you're still legally married and I'm scared of getting in trouble.
Nonsense, man. Nonsense. Let me teach you a life hack. You don't actually need anyone to conduct the nikah.
I know, but I wanted to give because the woman was a convert and she's a Muslim, I want to give her the full experience. And I'm just not a quitter. One thing about me, Hassan, I will fight till the end until I'm dead. Like, that's the kind of guy that I am. But the 36th sheikh, I'm not going to say his name, but he said something very profound. He said, even though legally, you know, you're still that, however, I don't care about the legal, because Allah will ask me on the day of judgment, that brother came to you for a nikah, for a halal opportunity, and you refused him. And I will be held accountable in the court of Allah. The court here, I don't give a shit about. So he came, he did the nikah, he didn't even care. And alhamdulillah, you know, Allah Mubarak, he asked us.
Yeah, but it's insane, the expectations. Look, in the Western tradition, people date and people commit zina, and that's not a big deal.
Right.
And it's quite interesting because the Muslim man is put in a situation where he cannot follow the Western way, of course. nor can he follow the traditional Islamic way. He is forced to walk an unrealistic, unreasonable, thin line in the middle that's neither fully Islamic nor is it fully Western, and will only lead to failure. So you mentioned this point. I mean, divorce in the West takes years. So what do non-Muslims do? They start dating during the divorce process. It is completely normal.
Yeah. Oh, they push it. They push you. They push you to date. So when I sit with a probation officer now, you know, my probation officer keeps asking me every time because I'm on probation, do you currently have a girlfriend? And I just look at her, I'm like, I don't do that shit. She's like, why not? You should go back in the market and this, that.
Yeah. The point is, it's completely normal. But of course, as Muslims, we don't commit haram. We don't date. So your only option is to get Islamically married again. But oh no, can't do that while you're still in divorce. And that may take 3-4 years. So what do you expect a man to do in that period? And what they're not understanding, Imam Ghazali has written this, and you can study this, that having your physical, intimate needs fulfilled is just as important as air, food, and water. The problem is the Western tradition has misused sexuality. It's all used in the most abhorrent and inappropriate of ways. So it's defined as this negative thing that's a luxury. It isn't. It's actually a healthy, beautiful thing that is a basic human need and a basic human requirement. And therefore, to expect a man to remain single for 3-4 years as their legal divorce continues is absolutely insane. So here's the conundrum that we walk against, which is, look, in the Western tradition, people can date around, sleep around. They often do. For years before finally getting married. And then even when they get married, a lot of times they commit adultery, astaghfirullah. And then in the divorce, the minute the divorce is filed, they start dating again. That is accepted as a norm within Western tradition, and it's okay. As Muslims, we reject that. In the Islamic tradition, a man can marry more than one spouse. And if there's a divorce, doesn't have to give half his wealth and doesn't have to give alimony, and that's normal. He can marry 1, 2, 3, 4. He has to be just, he has to be fair, he has to be merciful, he has to be loving, he has to be a protector, but he can do that. And of course, that's not allowed. So what's expected of Muslim men is to walk this middle path that's neither here nor there, where you cannot date, you cannot obviously sleep around, you cannot get into relationships and learn. Rightfully so. You have to marry one woman and stay with her forever. And God forbid, if there's a divorce, you have to stay single throughout that process until the divorce is done. And then, bro, the non-Muslims aren't living that life at all. It's not realistic. And Muslims traditionally weren't living that life. So why are they forcing this false path that no one truly ever lived? It's a recipe for disaster.
I just don't also get like how, like, I don't know about, you're Syrian, right? Like your culture, I don't know how Syrian culture is, but most of, let's say, the South Asian culture where, for example, my mom gave him permission years ago, like 25 years ago or something, that, hey, go marry a second woman. And he still didn't. I have arguments with him today. He's like, I'm like, Dad, why didn't you? Like, your needs weren't being met. My mom was honest about it.
Let me be clear also. When it comes to taking another spouse, and especially as you get older, you realize this. It isn't something that is purely just done for fun and for a good time, right? It's not what it is. It's a responsibility. It's a headache for a lot of men. I mean, I will tell you, historically, I've been very pro-polygamy. On a personal level, I've been monogamous for quite some time. And the reason is, man, I'm too busy making money and I'm too busy trying to change the world. And by choice, I don't have time right now for that additional responsibility and the headache. I would rather spend my time traveling with world famous celebrities to give da'wah and to serve the people of Palestine. I just don't have the time. However, that's not to say it's a no completely or a no forever, but just realizing the priorities, because I understand that taking another spouse is a burden and a responsibility. I don't have any interest to fall into haram, which is what these Westerners do. They'll be traveling, they'll go to the club, have a one-night stand. That's not for us. But I also realize, like right now, I don't have the time to invest in taking care of another spouse and a family. So at this time, for me, this is what makes sense. But we have to understand that for every person has their own situation. It's a big shame to judge someone, because if someone is providing for their wife and their wife is not responding to intimacy, they have to beg, they have to chase, she has a headache every other night, dude, then, and this guy feels like he's going to fall into haram, well, more power to him to get another wife. And the first wife has no one to blame but herself.
You are going through divorce. You are going through depression. I understand you. I've been there. This is why I've put together a book that guides you through every single thing you need to know from my experiences and other men's experiences living in the West for the past 2 years. This book will absolutely help you through every single process, whether it's courts, custody, dealing with fake charges. It's absolutely free, guys. I've put this together for you. You don't have to wait anymore. No one's coming to save you, so take action.
But my dad's answer wasn't that. My dad's answer was he was too worried about what people would do in judgment.
Oh my God.
That's most of the uncles, right? And I'm like, Dad, I judge you now. I'm like, Dad, I still judge you now. I judge you now.
The worst thing is caring what people think. You should only care what Allah thinks.
Correct.
And what the truly righteous scholars think, because their position reflects Allah's position, quite candidly. You know, if they've studied the deen, the scholars are the inheritors of the Prophet. So if they're true, authentic, traditional scholars, I think their opinion matters. But only care what Allah thinks and the righteous think. But if you care what other people think, man, they don't live your life, they don't pay your bills, it doesn't matter. And I'm a testament to that, man. I went through the ultimate cancellation campaign. They tried to destroy me. They tried to take everything from me. They defamed me, slandered me. And subhanAllah, I saw that hadith come to fruition, which is if all humanity is gathered to benefit you, they can't benefit you except with what Allah allows. And if they're all gathered to harm you, they cannot harm you except with what Allah allows. They tried to destroy me. They tried to cancel me. And alhamdulillah, my income went up 10x. My speaking arrangements went up 10x. My network went up 10x. Everything went up 10x because alhamdulillah, I just tried to stay right by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to understand that people have no power. Power is only in Allah's hands. So in how you live your life and how you treat others, in your marriage, in your divorce, in your challenges, just make sure you're doing it in a way that is pleasing to Allah. And as long as you strive to keep Allah happy, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of you. And the worst form of slavehood, the worst form of servitude is to live a life beholden to the opinions of people who don't matter, who don't pay your bills, and who are not God's arbitrators about what you should and should not be doing.
So I have a question. How did you blow up in these past 3-4 years? I remember I saw you at the back of a UFC gig. I think it was Islamic or one, and then you just blew up with all the boxers. And how did this happen? How did this all happen to be Hassan Shibly? How did this all come together?
That's a great question, bro. So subhanAllah, in my situation, akhi, I remember when I was literally told, we're going to destroy you. You will never be accepted in public or in service anywhere. And it was all through lies and defamation. And I remember when I was going through it, and alhamdulillah, I had also faced ridiculously false allegations and charges. And the thing is, the media ran to publish it without caring for the facts, even though they had evidence that it was all false. But I remember sitting with Child Protective Services from the state of Florida. And it was a Christian man who sat with me for 4 hours. And after his investigation told me, Hassan, you're going to be like Ayyub alayhi salam. You're going to lose everything, but it's all going to come back to you tenfold. Wallahi, this is what he told me. And he wrote a report clearing my name. And that's exactly what happened, akhi. At the time, I lost my kids wrongfully. I lost my house. I resigned from my job. Bro, I had a red Mercedes. It was repossessed in the middle of the night. I remember hearing a noise and walking out to my driveway in the middle of the night, seeing my car gone. I hit rock bottom. I literally had felt like I had lost everything. And alhamdulillah, I had so many wealthy friends, wealthy family members. I remember the hadith though. You don't ask from people. You only ask from Allah. And Allah blessed me not to ask from anyone. And I remember actually going to New York City, trying to start fresh and seeing the train in front of me and wishing I could fall in front of it, brother. I didn't want to live anymore. What kept me going was trusting Allah and my charity work. I remember the hadith. Allah helps the servant so long as the servant helps others. I'm like, Allah, I don't know how to fix this problem. I'm being unjustly slandered and defamed and have everything taken away from you. And I don't know how to help myself. But I know how to help others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Allah, I'm going to help others, and please, you help me. And I saw no light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember before going through that, I heard the hadith that the first people to enter Jannah are those who thank Allah in good times and bad times. They will enter Jannah first. They will enter heaven without judgment. I said, make me amongst them. And I just tried in my calamity, in my trial, when I lost everything, just to keep thanking Allah, making dua, keeping my trust in Him, and then increasing my charitable efforts to help others, even when I myself was in need of help. And then, brother, it was just like a blink of an eye. I saw everything I lost came back tenfold, got my house back, got my kids back. My ex issued a public apology. I started making more in a month than I used to in a year. And Allah just opened up the doors. And one of the things, brother, is that I actually just not caring when I went through that and saw they failed. One of my clients, I helped him avoid 20 years in jail unjustly, Imam Abu Tawbah. He told me when I was going through it, he said, Hassan, in the art of war, it says when a greater army tries to destroy a weaker army, if it fails to destroy them in the initial onslaught, the weaker army wins. When the liberal, feminist, extremely secular media tried to destroy me and they failed, then I realized, like, dude, it doesn't matter what people say or do, just go by principle. So I started living more by principle, being publicly open about principle and justice, speaking the truth and not caring what people think. And through that, Allah opened up the doors for me to have incredible networks and earn the respect of people that matter. You have to understand, the people who just bash people online, they don't matter. If you're a wealthy millionaire, billionaire, businessman, you're not spending your time gossiping. You don't care. But what you respect is the people who are like you, who don't care what people think. So that just helped build myself, build my character, build my trust in Allah. And through that, Allah opened up the doors for all these incredible networks that we've just been trying to use to serve the ummah, alhamdulillah, and serve the cause of justice.
How's your time with Dan Bilzerian nowadays? Like, you're still connected with him, or that was just the one?
Subhanallah, my guy actually attended my Jummah khutbah just 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. And if you were to put that on my, bingo card 5 years ago, I'd never believe it. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's a very powerful story because it's quite interesting. Look, I remember my ex-wife once, she was upset and she's like, Hassan, you just want to be halal Dan Bilzerian. I'm like, who's that? What's that? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you stop. So I look him up and I see how he's living his lifestyle with the jets and the yachts and the women and all of this. And I said, subhanallah, Allah's given this man so much, but he's using it for very destructive, unhealthy things. Yeah. Imagine if he used what Allah gave him to serve justice, to serve truth. So instead of judging him, instead of hating on him, because maybe he was living a lifestyle that we would disagree with, I just made sincere dua for him. I said, Ya Allah, help this man use what you've given him in benefit of his hereafter and in benefit of the deen and in benefit of the ummah. And then about a year later, or not a year later, many years later, which was last year, I saw him speaking out against Israel. So I made sincere dua. I said, Ya Allah, he's speaking truth at a time when many are not. Connect me with him and let us serve the deen together. And subhanAllah, then there was a man who was going through a hard time. I invited him to come to my house so I can help him. He said, I can't, I'm going to Dan's house. I said, well, give him my appreciation, give him my respect for speaking out, and convey my greetings to him. So he's like, oh, I'm at his house right now. He told me to give you his number. We started texting. The first thing he told me is like, my hedonistic days are over. They never brought me happiness. I just want to be a force for good in the world. Alhamdulillah, through my invitation, he visited multiple Muslim countries. He has not been paid for this. In fact, he's paid out of pocket. And I've actually witnessed him lose hundreds of millions of dollars and lose contracts, individual contracts, each worth tens of millions because he's speaking out against Israel. And I think, the great thing about him is he's a testament that, listen, let's be real. A lot of the Arab kids, especially in Egypt, like they dream of living the Dan Bilzerian lifestyle. He's like, dude, that's not what you want. It doesn't bring happiness. He's a testament that a life of hedonism doesn't bring joy, but rather sacrificing to speak truth, to help the oppressed. That's what brings peace. And I do pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to guide him and use him for goodness.
But he hasn't taken a shahada yet, right? He hasn't taken the shahada yet.
As far as I know, no, but we're making dua, man. I mean, when I visited him, alhamdulillah, he attended my Jummah and heard the khutbah, and I released that khutbah so people can actually listen to it, the message that he heard. And then we spent quite some time later that evening speaking. And I would say he's 90% there. I pray that Allah guides him, and I think he'll find peace and joy through it. May Allah guide him the truth. But I'll say, for me, he's much closer than someone like DJ Khaled, who's Palestinian and is still remaining silent in the face of the genocide, man. I think Dan Bilzerian is a testament against people for two things. One, he's a testament that the hedonistic style won't bring you happiness. Islam will bring you happiness, because he's given up the hedonistic style and actually started reading the Quran. I actually started attending Jummah. That's a powerful lesson. The other thing is that no one has an excuse to stay silent, because he was willing to risk hundreds of millions of dollars to speak out. What excuse do we have not to speak out?
Man, what those kids are going through in Palestine, man, it's insane. Like I just feel embarrassed. I'm like, I always think to say, whenever I talk to like my Muslim brothers, I'm like, imagine if the Sahaba were alive today. If the Sahaba, they would be all locked up. They would be in jail. They would end up in jail, right? Like if the Sahabas live in the Western world in this law, all of our Sahabas, would end up in jail. right?
Well, here's the thing. Look, let's be candid. I think we as Muslims in the West have a very critical responsibility. If we're living in the West, we have to live to be as spiritually, intellectually, physically, and financially strong as possible, and use our resources in service of the deen, in service of the ummah. Number one, with supporting traditional Islamic education, because you don't want to lose the next generation of kids. Number two, da'wah, calling people to the kalima. Number three, PAC work, political lobbying work to push out those that are supporting the genocide and get anti-genocide people in. Those are our priorities. And if we're living in the West, we have to dedicate 10 to 30% of our resources to that, or we have to leave. There is no scenario where it's acceptable for us to live in these countries, pay tax dollars that fund the genocide, unless we're living to change these countries for the better, and we're striving to help those that are a victim of our terrible foreign policy. Otherwise, we shouldn't be here.
And the balls to speak up against this. Like so many masajids here don't want to even speak up against any of these atrocities. They have to be politically correct because they're getting canceled.
That's unacceptable. I don't think I've given one khutbah over the last 2 years that hasn't been about what is happening in Gaza and our role to stand up against it. That is our duty. That is our obligation. And if we're not living here to fight against the genocide, then we shouldn't be living here at all.
And let's face it, right? Like, that's the reason why a lot of the youth aren't, how do I say it? They're not inspired by the Muslim man, because what do they think when they see a Muslim man? A fat uncle who's out of shape, who doesn't take care of himself, whose wife yells at him in the Corolla. He's not chasing personal success either, and he panders to one thing. He's like, yo, why would I want to be this? But let's say if it was a Muslim James Bond with a beard, let's say, and he had 4 wives, and he had millions of dollars, and he gave away a lot of that, the youth will turn around like this.
That's it. Look, we have to strive to be kings.
Do you get what I'm saying, right? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like we somehow made Islam like as if it's like we're like supposed to be like oppressed and always just humble and not be able to live a good life and not be able to spend our money. Whereas the Islam tells the opposite. Allah even said that the Prophet said, if you have money, dress good, right? But somehow we made everything about piousness and about just being, below means for some reason.
Yeah, that's a complete misunderstanding. So look, piety is not, it's not that you don't have the world in your hands. It's that you don't have it in your heart. And there's a big difference. There could be someone who's broke, but his heart is filled with love of the dunya. And there could be a billionaire who doesn't have the dunya in their heart. And the billionaire in that circumstance could be better than the broke man who seeks the world. So it's really, with the prayer is, Ya Allah, put the world in our hands, not in our hearts. We as Muslims must strive. We can't afford to be mediocre Muslims in the West. If we're living in the West, we have to excel. We have to be kings in this dunya, not for the sake of this dunya, because this dunya is fleeting. It's just a blink of an eye compared to our true existence. But rather, we strive to be kings in the dunya, to be kings in the akhirah, to use what Allah has given us in service of the deen, in service of humanity, in service of charity, in service of justice, thereby fulfilling our role as Allah's representatives on earth.
Yeah, I've traveled the world. I've been all over US, Canada, and I've just noticed that the Muslim man here, most Western countries, they don't have that kind of a Muslim man, the ideal Muslim man. The only place I did find them were in Australia. The Lebanese brothers in Australia, man, they hold it down, bro. They fill up the mosques 30 deep. They all have successful businesses. They work hard. They all do things the right way, and they excel in the deen and the dunya. That's why if you look at their scholars like Hoblos and Bilal Asad and all these guys, they all come from that cloth, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? Beautiful but strong. Like our communities, Syrian, Pakistani, this community here in Canada, whatever, they're all beta males, complete beta.
There's a lot of emasculation, unfortunately.
Right.
There is, and our children are going to pay the price of that. And let's be clear, a strong man, an alpha male, a leader, he is going to truly be a tremendously great husband. But you know what? He's going to be busy. Because if you marry a successful man, he's not going to be there 24/7 to hang out. He doesn't have time. He's mission driven, his time is going to be limited. The problem is a lot of times also the expectations are unrealistic. Like you want a man who can give you everything financially you want, but is also planning the dates and is also has time. It's unrealistic. And the expectations of women have often been terribly misrepresented, and therefore they set themselves up for failure. Their standard is like these Disney movies and this Hollywood garbage, and we know who's behind that. The same people that support the genocide and leads to the destruction of the families. We need to reconnect. And I'll be honest with you, I truly think a lot of these young and uneducated Muslims, honestly, if they even knew what some of these hadiths say, I don't even know. They may leave the deen. Let's be real.
100%.
You know, they may leave the deen, and I think we need a reconnection with the traditional knowledge, the hadith, and how to apply it in our time. But you look at the Sahaba; they were warriors by day, they were monks by night. They took care, each of them, many of them took care of multiple women. They would risk their lives to protect the faith and their family, and they were given honor and respect. Now, that being said, sometimes, just like today, they would have their wives argue with them, fight with them. But you know what? They didn't react. And that's another big issue as men. You have to learn to be a man. A man doesn't argue. You know, I'm helping clients and they're getting into arguments with their wives. I'm like, bro.
I tell people chill. I'm like, yo, let her do whatever. Just chill. Let her be. You know, chill.
Never respond. Never react.
Yeah.
Maintain your authority as a man. If you only argue with someone that has authority over you, but if you're in a position of, I don't argue with my staff. You know, I run a law firm. If my staff, you know, don't like what I have to say, I'm willing to have a conversation to learn more and to be heard. But if it becomes an argument, I'm like, I'm done. This is my decision. You like it or you leave. You have to have strength. You have to speak from a place of authority and guide the family to success, because ultimately at the end of the day, you will be questioned. The Prophet said, you are all shepherds and you're all responsible for your flock, and you will be questioned about your household and how you led it. And we have to learn to be true leaders.
You said something very important about the expectations. So this is the bucket list of the modern, feminist Muslim hijabi woman's bucket list for what she looks for in a man today. She wants the man to be 6'6", big chest, nipples are hard in the tamad. His nipples are hard when he wears the white shalwar kameez or the tamad. He's got a perfect beard line, and he makes multiple six figures. And when she calls him to come, he just bends over for everything. They only want that bucket list as long as that man keeps his mouth shut. When he says he has boundaries and he has values and hey, he wants respect, he wants you to stay at home and he wants you not to talk to certain people or not have guy friends or this, that, now you're controlling, now you're manipulative. And guess what? If they were married to a beta male Muslim man who just does everything and is not fit or whatever, they end up cheating with that guy on a guy like that. It's such a
it's unreasonable. But again, I think there's a lot still. I mean, the thing is, you're not going to see them, arguing online. But there's still a lot of incredible righteous women that are looking and that have been protected from the fitna of the modern extreme feminism. But that's really ultimate. I remember in a week I had like 5 or 6 Muslim leaders. Mostly men, some of them women, all call me because they're facing divorce. And the way they describe their spouse, it's like they're all married to the same person, the same exact problems. And what that tells me is the problem is not an individualistic problem. It's a society. It's billions of dollars have been spent to brainwash the public about what a relationship should be, what marriage is, what romance is. And these are all false satanic expectations that lead people to destruction. The solution is to go back to the Quran and Sunnah. The solution is for men to be real leaders, not to be reactionary. Never respond with violence. Never respond with emotion. Never respond with arguing. Learn to hold your foot and have accountability. And ultimately then, if the wife is not willing to show honor and respect to the husband, to be willing to walk away. The ability to walk away is the key to strength. Problem is, if you're legally married, you're not just walking away from the relationship, you're walking away from half your assets, you're walking away with half your salary that you have to pay in alimony. It becomes a nightmare. So that's not going to lead you to success whatsoever.
So what's your advice for Muslim men today, like the young generation that's coming up, the 20-year-olds, the mid-20s that are looking for spouses? What did they do? Where did they find these spouses, and how do they structure their life? How should they structure their life, and what kind of mindset should they have? Because even when I go to nikahs today and I see nikahs happening, and all the scholars care about is a $500 envelope, and they'll just sign that Canadian paper, and even their speech is almost like the man is now the wife's bitch. Oh, now you are done, you are off market. Even this word to say you're off market to a Muslim man, like I'm like, okay, you're off market. Now you are your wife's, like little doggy, basically. That's how the khutbah is even like that. I get mad when I go and see this. I'm like, yo, no one's told him about protecting his assets. No one taught him anything. They just like gave it away.
The first thing, look, let me be clear. I think polygamy is necessary for the society. I don't necessarily think it's for everyone. And part of that is because most men just don't have the kahunas and the knowledge and the fortitude and the emotional strength and the financial strength to manage it. So one of the first things that people have to decide early on, and these things can change over time, let's be real, but are you looking more for a monogamous situation or polygamous? You have to be honest with yourself from day one, because if you're not, it can lead to a disaster. And I'll also be candid with you. I think in my experience, you can either have one spouse that you're madly in love with and they're madly in love with you, and I'm not saying that's healthy or right, I'm just being practical. Or you can have 2, 3 that you sort of like and they sort of like you. I haven't seen a lot of relationships work out where it's polygamous, but you also have that spouse that deeply you're into and she's deeply into you. So that's a choice you have to make. And what I don't like is when somebody tries to impose one solution for everyone. That's not how it works. But I think people have to be honest with themselves. Do you want one spouse that you're super into and she's super into you? Or do you want to be able to provide support for more than one? You have to figure that out before you even get married on the first time. That's crystal clear. Number 2 is consult with an attorney before the nikah. And when I mean nikah, whether it's just Islamic marriage or legal marriage, consult with an attorney, because even the nikah certificate can have implications. And do not get legally married if you don't have to. And if you do, but by the way, there is sometimes, reason. I'll give you an example. If you have children with a woman, depending on the state, and you're not legally married, you may not have any rights to those children. So she could actually disappear with the kids. This is why I'm saying speak to an attorney beforehand to determine, do you need to get legally married or not? Is it better to not get legally married? Is it better to get a prenup and then legally married? Speak with an attorney about that, and then take mentorship. Take solid brothers that you can trust to learn to guide you. Because I also think, listen, at the end of the day, I think we live in a society that often teaches women to disrespect men and not to honor them. But really the onus is on the husbands to be able to lead, to not be reactionary, to not get into arguments, and to understand psychologically, how can you help your wife against shaitan and lead you into a happy marriage? So learn how to have that strength and that leadership.
Mm-hmm. So when are you traveling again to Romania or something? Or
Bro, I'm so over it. I've been traveling nonstop this year. I spent more time, I think, out of the country than in the country. It's been exhausting, but we'll see. I got some invitations to Qatar, to Saudi Arabia, even to the UAE that just came in over the last week. I'm trying to avoid out-of-country travel for the rest of the year. Even they had invitations even from Romania recently, but we'll have to see. I'm trying to catch up on my firm, because people's problems, unfortunately, are keeping me very busy these days.
And nowadays problems are only increasing with like your law firm's only busier with all this stuff that's happening.
It's insanely busy. So I'll throw a plug. If you need help, hit us up at muslimlegal.com so we can help.
For sure. So where can people find you if they want to? You only practice in every state, or just in like?
It depends on the area of law and what's needed. But again, if people do need help, just go to muslimlegal.com, right where you live, what you need, and if we feel that we're in a position to help you, we'll be happy to help you or possibly point you in the right direction. You can follow my work on, Instagram, Hassan Shibly, ESQ, Twitter, Hassan Shibly, SoundCloud as well. But, the thing I struggle with, a lot of people try to DM me asking for help. No way I could personally respond to everything. So I have a team, about a dozen staff members. So if you need help, just go to muslimlegal.com, book an appointment, and we'll do what we can to help you.
And what do you do for Canadians? Do you do anything for Canadians as well, like for the Canadian people, or no?
So because I'm not familiar with Canadian law. Obviously, I'm not licensed in those jurisdictions. Generally, unless it's a Canadian who has a business interest or need in the U.S., we don't get involved. Where we can help often is mediation and just consulting. So if you want non-legal assistance, like help mediate a dispute, or just general Islamic leadership and guidance, we can assist with that without legal help.
Got it. Well, Hassan Shibly, I appreciate your time. I know your time is valuable. I really appreciate you giving me this 1 hour. It was a request for a lot of people. I genuinely really respect it. I think I had a great conversation. I would love to meet you in person one day, inshallah, or maybe go on one of these tours. I would love to see you. And thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge today. I genuinely appreciate it, brother.
Let's do it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience with me as we had to reschedule, I know, a couple of times, but it's been great to kick it with you. And let's keep in touch. Look forward to hosting you sometime when you visit Florida.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Have a good one.
You are going through divorce. You are going through depression. I understand you. I've been there. This is why I've put together a book that guides you through every single thing you need to know from my experiences and other men's experiences living in the West for the past 2 years. This book will absolutely help you through every single process, whether it's courts, custody, dealing with fake charges. It's absolutely free, guys. I've put this together for you. You don't have to wait anymore. No one's coming to save you, so take action.